Today I'm going to walk you through some tips to doing something that's kind of a trendy, fun design right now. We're going to be using our striper paints. So I want to show you all of the great colors that we've got so you can really see that metallic look to them. So those are the colors that I'm going to be using today. And I'm going to show you 3 ways to do what we're calling the invisible French. Okay, so what I've got here, I've got 3 different nails, 3 different shapes, 3 different styles. The first one that I have is actually one of our full cover nude pink tips. And these are, just like they say, full cover. They already have that color to them, so you can use them right out of the box like they are. You don't have to polish on any other color. And we also have a beige color with those as well. So really great, easy kind of a start. With this one, I will actually take that tip and I like to go through with my 180 buffer and just kind of give that just a quick buff just to lightly remove the shine. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but on this one, I kind of do like a little bit more texture to that surface when I'm putting my, my design over the top of that. You don't have to, it's just a personal preference. If you like to do that, if you like to work on more of a matte surface, you can. Just make sure to go through, dust off that dust. You don't have to cleanse it with anything. Just dust that off to make sure that it's not dusty. So the second nail that I've got here, our pink one, this is one of our full cover Coffin tips. So I love the shape of these. They're already pre-tapered in for that really beautiful coffin look. And then the black nail that I have is one of our full cover Stiletto tips. Okay, on these 2, I've already gone ahead and polished them out. And today what I'm using on our pink one is one of our Go Time one-step gel polishes. And this one is She's a Pistol. And then the black is also one of our Go Times. And this one is Look, Don't Touch. We're going to start with just kind of a two-tone almost. So I'm actually going to come in with my light pink. So this one is called Puppy Breath. So I'm going to take my brush out. Now these stripers, they're a nice thin striper. They're a nice long striper brush. But what I like to do is really get out some of that extra paint. And make sure that when you lift that brush out that you also run the top of that brush around. Because if you get a lot of paint kind of built up on the stem up here, sometimes that'll drip down. And if I have this kind of on the side, it'll start to kind of form a little bit of a little drop right on the edge there, and that can actually start to kind of flow down the brush. So make sure that when you take your brushes out, run that top part around to kind of get rid of some of that extra paint. And then you can wipe off any of that extra, okay? A little bit of the paint goes a long way. So you'll see that I don't just take that brush out fully loaded. I do wipe a good amount of that paint off so that I can make those really nice thin lines, okay? So when I'm starting with my outline, usually what I like to do is I like to find my center, okay? So for my center, I'm going to start by just kind of positioning or kind of eyeballing where my center is right at the tip of the nail. So right at the point of the nail down here. And then I'll kind of move back. So I'll start there with my visual. I'll move back, straight back, and I'll put just a tiny little dot. So that way I know that that's the center of my nail. Then I'm also going to come to the sides and I'm going to put a dot right where I want each of those little dog ears, those little corners to come. So this way, again, I have those even, okay? Now we just connect the dots, okay? Here's the trick, you guys. If you're a little bit shaky like I am, take a breath. Kind of relax your hands a little bit, because sometimes I think we get a little bit tense and we kind of tighten up, and that's kind of where I start to get a little bit shaky. But also make sure that you're balancing, okay? Use your pinky to balance. That way you're going to have a little bit more control. And if you get a little shaky, don't worry, I'm going to show you how to clean it up, okay? So again, I'm going to put just a little bit more of that gel paint on my brush. And I'm going to start, you can start from the center and work out whichever way you're comfortable. So on this one, I'm actually going to come from the center and I'm just going to connect my dots. So I'm going to start here and touch my brush down and then just pull out to the side, okay? Now, if you can come around this way, you can come this way. A lot of times what I like to do is turn the nails around. When you're working on these little demos, on the little stands, it works super easy. But even if you're working on a client, you can turn that hand around. So if you're working from here and here, again, you can turn that hand around. Your client is mobile, okay? So don't worry about that. But same thing, I'm just going to kind of touch my brush down and then just drag that out to the side. Now on this nail, I'm not creating a super deep smile line. We'll do maybe a little bit more deeper on our longer nails here, but this one's a little bit more of a shallow, okay? Then I'm going to take a little bit more of my paint. I'm going to turn on the side. Now on here, I kept my brush a little bit more straight up and down. When I'm working on the sides, I'm going to use that whole length of my brush. I'm going to touch that onto the nail, press that whole length of the brush down, and just kind of drag through that free edge. Pick up a little bit more of my paint, same thing, touch the whole brush down, and drag through my free edge. Those sides are much easier than that smile line, you guys, I guarantee you. But I'm gonna also come back through and just kind of clean up that smile line a little bit, kind of make sure that everything is nice and even. Maybe just a little bit more through this side. And if you need a little bit more of that gel polish on your brush, you can go ahead and add a little bit more, grab a little bit more, touch up those lines, make them as thick or thin as you like. And I think we're good to go on that one. Now here's the trick, you guys. If you did maybe get a little bit shaky, what I like to do is I'll grab my gel brush and I'll take a little bit of our swipe, just a little bit. You don't want to be flooding it onto the nail. So I pump just a little bit of that swipe right up into the top cup there and just kind of tap just a little bit, tap a little bit of that out so that I'm, again, not flooding on the nail. And then I can use this kind of as a little eraser, just to touch up that smile line. Grab a lint-free wipe, you can clean out your brush. Again, tap just a tiny, tiny little bit of that swipe. You could even dab off a little bit of that if you need to. And then again, you can come in and perfect that line and clean that up, okay? So once you get your lines on there, pop that into the light. You can go for about 30 seconds, and that'll set that into place long enough to go onto your next nail or to do another design with this. A lot of times I like to actually add a little design kind of right in the middle. So sometimes you could add just maybe a little heart, a little flower, a little bit of glitter in the center of that, something like that, anything you want to just kind of add into that nail. So that was kind of our basic shape, kind of our shallow smile line. Let me show you on the next two how you can get a little bit more of a different look. So on our pink nail, let's go with our white. Like I said, white is kind of one of my good standard colors. It's usually what I use for a lot of my designs. We're going to do the same thing. Run that brush around the top, wipe off some of that paint. Now with your square or your coffin shaped nails, you don't have that point as your guide, but you still have kind of a visual of where your center point is. So again, I'm going to kind of check where my center is, move straight up, put a little dot right in that center, and then I'm going to bring my smile lines up even higher on this one. So a little dot on each side. Take a breath if you're getting shaky. Okay, again, I'm going to go back in, pick up a little bit more paint, but not flooding it. And again, same thing. I'm going to touch that dot, bring that down to my center point. Same thing on the other side, touch my dot, bring that down to my center point. Again, you're seeing I got a little bit shaky on this one. That's okay. Again, we can always come back and clean that up. Just kind of touching up my smile lines here if I need more paint, or just to kind of refresh that brush, go back into your color and then just pull through. All right, just another little quick touch up. There we go. Okay, now on this one, I'm actually going to come back through and kind of clean that up before I go into my sides. I don't want to smudge my sides as I'm doing my cleanup. So you can either clean up before you do your sides, after, whichever you prefer. Wherever you need to do that cleanup will kind of determine where or when you clean up. So on this one, I just had a little bit to do in the center. On this one, I have a little bit more on the side. So that's why I'm doing my cleanup before I do my sides. Otherwise, I'm going to smudge my sides when I'm cleaning up. So it just kind of depends on where you're at, what you need to touch up is when you want to clean up. And so again, just kind of drawing through, using that brush as kind of a little eraser to perfect those smile lines. And you guys, I'm going to give you one more trick, okay? When you're doing this design, and when you're doing a lot of your design work, don't sit and stare at it this close, because everything's going to look off when you're looking this close. take a step back, kind of look at it from a little farther away. Then you'll see where you need to touch up and where you're just kind of over analyzing it. So don't be so particular that you're going to spend all of your time touching up stuff that doesn't need to be touched up, okay? But you do want to make it nice and crisp, nice and sharp, and nice and pretty. Okay, I think we're good there. Then let's come into our sides. Same thing again. I'm just going to touch my brush down, lay that down onto the nail, let the length of the brush kind of do that work for me, pulling straight down. Same thing on the other side. Touch that brush down, lay it down, and pull straight forward. And again, you guys can make these lines as thick or as thin as you like, whatever you want to do with your design. But what I like to do is take a view from the front, okay? Because sometimes you can see that you may see a little bit more of that paint, but you may decide you want to thicken that up just a little bit so you see a little bit more of that outline, okay? So I'm actually going to come back in with a little bit more of that paint, and I'm going to thicken up that outer line just a little bit more so that I can see it when I'm looking more straight onto that nail. All right, then once we have our sides done, we can come back through and just come straight across that little free edge and close up that French. Okay, again, if you need to come back in, touch anything up, straighten out that line at all, you can go ahead and do that. And again, if there's any little touch-ups that you're seeing at this point, go ahead and clean those up as well. And then you can get that into the light. Okay, so for our last nail, I'm actually going to use two different colors. We're going to kind of mix this up a little bit, but I'm going to be working with the silver and gold this time. I'm going to start with my gold. Again, I'm going to find my center point, come straight back, give myself a little dot, come onto my sides, give myself my little dot to make sure everything is going to be even, and then we'll come right down into that smile line. Right down in, and I came right above that little dot, so I'm just going to come back through, kind of touch that up a little bit, bring that smile a little farther down so that my dot connects. And then again, I think on this one I'm going to turn it around. Come back from my other side and just connect the dots. Okay, I think we're looking about right here, maybe just a little bit more even on this side. There we go. And you guys, for something like this, your clients are going to look at it and they're going to be like, oh, I want something easy like that. I'll tell you guys, it looks like it's an easy design, but trying to get the lines perfectly straight, especially if you do have a little bit of that shakiness to you, it can be tricky. So you do want to make sure that you book out a little bit of extra time when you're doing this design, okay? It's not always as easy and quick as your clients may think. Especially if you do need to do a little cleanup. Like I said, if you're a little shaky, make sure that you book a little extra time. But then also make sure that you're charging for that extra time. This is an art, this is a design. Anytime you add art and design work to your nails, you do want to make sure that you're adding that little bit of an upcharge. All right. Now this one, I'm actually going to set this into the light for just a couple of seconds before I go into my next color, just so I can, probably about 10 seconds, but just so I can make sure that that gold is set into place and I'm not going to smudge it when I go into my next color. So just a quick 10-second freeze in there is enough to set it where I'm not going to smudge. So then we'll come back with our silver and then we'll do our outline. So again, just like we were doing before. Now on my stilettos, I do like to make this outer edge a little bit thicker because with as tapered as these nails are, sometimes if you're looking from the free edge and you have that line too thin, you're not going to see it. So that's why I do kind of make these just a little bit thicker so you can see a little bit more right from that free edge. Or kind of right from that straight on view. But again, having that really nice long striper brush is really going to make these outer edges nice and easy. Alright, so I'm going to just keep that a little bit more to a point, nice and crisp in there. Make sure to kind of connect those a little bit, but keeping a little bit more of a V shape. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and freeze this into place. I'll top coat them and then I'll show you the final looks.